Demons are the disembodied spirits of the giants Nepotesia, the mighty men of renown, or the Gibberum, created by the Watchers when they left their heavenly abode and came down to the daughters of men.
They are hybrids, angelic half-breeds, the Titans. Og the king of Bashan had a bed that was 13 to 15 feet long, and Goliath was 6 cubits tall and 9 feet.
The union of these beasts with humans produced children that were different in many ways. The first apparent difference was that they developed giantism. They were giants or Nepotesia.
The second aberration was that they had 6 fingers and 6 toes. The aberrant genetic tendencies of the Nepotesia were unfortunately cloned into the DNA of mankind.
According to the Bible, only Noah escaped the genetic intervention at the time.
There are no records of these perverse tendencies prior to the intervention of the Watchers. These dormant genetic tendencies still surface today at times in different people.
The Watchers are a guardian class of angels that were assigned to watch over the earth and protect mankind from just this sort of thing from happening.
So the local native Scythian Draconites of that region, displaced from somewhere else and brought there by the U.S., obviously wouldn't know who built the colonial mounds. Karakatane is not related to the Nepotesia, nor are they related to Cain. It's simply a name that sounds similar. He probably meant Philistines because of the Goliath story, but not all of them were as tall as Goliath. Who lets these fake archaeologists mess with Peruvian headbound skulls? Isn't someone in the antiquities area watching them? Guess not. None of his videos prove aliens or fallen angels any more than a Vinci novel. If they were selling it as fiction, that's fine, but they seem under the delusion that their rants are real, and everyone else is lying, typical of that behavior. Well, at least he doesn't have that patterns and everything ailment, or does he? They need to believe in special knowledge they have, and for a price, you too can have special knowledge. It's not special, it's fake. No reason to let inconvenient facts get in the way of a perfectly good diatribe. You yourself acknowledge that the original owner of the site excavated under the stone slab and found the legs from your earlier post.
Goodwin, as noted in the comments below, claimed to have found the legs in situ while excavating beneath the stone.
And this was only added by you when a reader specifically pointed it out. Other historical photos you rely on are far from conclusive.
You are no better than the people you continually criticize. You cherry-pick the facts to support your argument.
You are free to reach your own conclusions. Must I think it's disingenuous to do so without disclosing all relevant facts. You mean like Mars Girl disclosed all the relevant facts? How are the legs of different size in different decades? Why is there sometimes a monolith standing behind the sacrificial altar? Table, and other times not. I can't imagine you could look barely at the photographs of whole parts of the site that were once piles of disconnected rocks, which are now well-designed chambers, and not see that the place had been extensively reworked. Given the known rebuilding work done at the site, which not even fringe believers dispute, occurred at some level. It's up to the claimant to prove that the rock in question at any given claim was a claimed position in ancient times. That's the burden of proof. Obviously, I'm not going to defend Mars Girl, but there are so many open questions about this site, yet you dismiss it well so dismissively.
And the idea that these structures were built as root cellars. If so, why no doors? And why are the openings too narrow for wheelbarrows?
The apple cider press conclusion is also shaky. Why carry the apples up the hill to press them, only to have to carry the cider back down?
Of course the site was reworked. Nobody denies that. The question is, what was it, and who built it originally, if not the Pate family?
No reason to let inconvenient facts get in the way of a perfectly good diatribe. You yourself acknowledge that the original owner of the site excavated under the stone slab and found the legs from your earlier post. Goodyear believed that the Topper site might be older than 50,000, the discovery of Tremolusans, and many more. It's not reasonable to continue arguing that the exoarchaeologists don't have the balls to report what they believe they've discovered.
To the contrary, I'm sure most go to bed at night dreaming they'll find something someday of such historical significance they'll be immortalized in the Exoarchaeological Hall of Fame.
Exoarchaeologists employing careful and proper techniques that hold up to scrutiny, that find Bronze Age evidence in the Valley Nations, or giants for that matter, will clamor to share the discovery. I wish you said what you said was true.
With such mainstream claims as hypothesizing Scythian Pharaonians came to the Valley Nations across an Atlantic ice front.
I hear a lot of the argument that exoarchaeologists don't want to stick their necks out with respect to new discoveries, and is simply not supported by the facts. With such mainstream claims as a hypothesis that Scythian Pharaonians came to the Valley Nations across an Atlantic ice front.
My experience. I'm a member of NE and used to sit on its board. is that many archaeologists are intrigued by these fringe sites, but are reluctant to get involved and face criticism from their peers and get pummeled for their work.
How do we know the guy didn't make the site himself to drum up some kind of publicity? After all, we have Carhenge, the Berkeley stones, and the Old Grain Silo, and the Salian runestone. Nobody is convinced Carhenge is really any kind of ancient site. Funny that this site is sometimes confused for journalism by posters. It's an opinion editorial site, not a fact-finding research site. It looks at other people's opinions on aliens and weird mysteries and makes educated guesses. It therefore doesn't have to be concerned with getting everything right. Even real journals get some things wrong. It's hardly conclusive or a scholarly letter. It's called a blog and editorial most of the time, with some opinion and some facts, so there's room for interpretation. Jason does need to be on a TV show. History might be looking for new blood. It might be ironic. You wrote in your argument that a lot of the ex-archaeologists don't want to stick their necks out. Well, some of them do. You can send marked up photographs, surveys, videos, emails laying out a credible case that there is a potential of something of archaeological value at a particular location. You can extend the offer to pay for test pits or a larger scale exploration. It makes no difference. The seemingly monolithic block doesn't move. Summarized it succinctly, but the fact is the mainstream archaeologists refuse to dig at them, often fearing being ostracized. So it becomes a catch-22 how to find artifacts without a dig. You're guaranteed not to find anything if you don't ever look. If you're an amateur and find something, not by digging, then you and it are denounced and the whispers begin. I'll admit it's a superlative strategy. Experienced the effect of it a few times personally, but it isn't long until one, and I believe that I begin to wonder if maybe there isn't something of merit to all the conspiracy assertions. I am sorry that professional ex-archaeologists have, in your experience, been non-responsive in your attempt to get them involved in excavating at sites that interest you. I hope that no one reading this blog, however, concludes that this lack of interest and involvement has universally been the case.
As you well know, Vescuus, then an ex-archaeology graduate student, directed an excavation at Mr. Hill at the behest of the owners, and found no artifacts to support a pre-Columbian Salian-Faradian presence at the site.
He did, however, find over 7,000 19th century Euro-Salian Draconus and native Salian Draconus artifacts. He published a very brief report concerning his work at the site at the Bulletin of the Eastern State Ex-Archaeological Federation in 1956, as field notes. I've been told are stored somewhere at the Yale Peabody.
John reported no exoarchaeological evidence for a pre-Columbian Salian-Faradian connection to the chambers he excavated.
By the way, neither of these ex-archaeologists were in any way professionally harmed by their association with that research, and in fact were often invited to conferences to report on them.